This is Gun and Butter, true crime stories told by your favorite cousin, Giana G.
That's what it's all about. Guns and butter, baby. You little dumb motherfuckers.
What's poppin', family, and welcome back to Guns and Butter with your favorite cousin, Giana G. Now, this week's case is very juicy, but it high-key pisses me off because it involves a 10-year-old little girl and a 17-year-old teenager. And if y'all know me, y'all know I do not play about my little niece, Ava Jade. That is my certified broke best friend. So with that being said, just know that this case invoked a lot of anger and a lot of emotion. Because I don't care what beef we have, I don't care what you got going on, what I got going on, you do not mess with the babies, okay? You ever fuck with somebody so tough? I'm talking about bringing them around your family. This is no longer your friend. This is now your play cousin, your play brother, your play sister. And you just showing them genuine love and friendship. They smiling in your face, eating off your plate. Whole time they plotting on you. Now that's what I call an op right there. In this week's case, we have 3 victims. 54-year-old Gloria Short, her 17-year-old son Caleb Short, and her 10-year-old granddaughter, Giana Lindsey. Ms. Gloria was born January 31st, 1961 in Columbus, Georgia. She just recently retired after 30 years of serving civil service as an administrative assistant in the Quality Management Division. She participated in Rally for Life and other breast cancer walks. She was also a board member of Soul of My Footprint and other community activities. She was said to be really loving and energetic, and she was really involved in her community and getting out and doing things with the neighborhood. She was actually known as a neighborhood mama, okay? Now, she was really just starting to enjoy her retirement. They would always go on family trips, and she was just enjoying her time, not having to wake up and go to work every day, hanging out with grandkids and, spending time with her husband, her man. Her son Caleb was 17 years old. He was born May 28th, 1998 in Columbus, Georgia. He was the baby of the family, and he was the last of Miss Gloria's kids. He was a junior at Shaw High School, and he really just enjoyed being a teenager, playing basketball, playing football with his friends. He loved going on family vacations. He was said to be a really big fan of the Georgia Bulldogs, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Atlanta Falcons. So he loved anything Atlanta, okay? They also said he was really athletic. He loved to go to the gym, hang out with his dad, but he was really out the way. He was a good kid. He was quiet. He was really shy, and he wasn't really into anything crazy. He was a good kid, though. And last, we have sweet little 10-year-old Giana Lindsey. They called her Gigi. I think that's so cute. She was born June 23rd, 2005 in Atlanta, Georgia. She was in the 5th grade at Ridgecrest Elementary, and she was a little Girl Scout. She danced at Columbus School of Music and Dance for several years, and she also was a cheerleader for the YMCA. She had also just recently placed 2nd place in her 5th grade spelling bee, and she was scheduled to participate in the school-wide spelling bee. Now, she loved to hang out with her grandma because her grandma loved to spoil her, okay? You know how grandmas is about their little grandbabies. She didn't get to go to middle school. She never got to go to any school dances. No first kiss. She didn't get to experience her life. She was only 10 years old. Now let's get into these stank-ass murderers. We have 3 of them. 19-year-old Raheem Gibson, 17-year-old Rufus Burks, and the mastermind behind it all, lame-ass, stupid-ass, hating-ass, broke-ass. Y'all thought I was about to tell you? Just keep listening, okay? On January 4th, 2016, at around 8 a.m. in Upatoy, Georgia, the police received a phone call from Robert Short. Now, he's crying, he's frantic, he's really upset. He says, I just got home from work and somebody killed my wife, my son, and my grandbaby. Hurry up and get here. So when police arrive on the scene, they don't know if the murderers are still in the house. They don't know what's going on or what to expect. So they immediately get into tactical formation. Now listen, I don't know if that's what it's called, but you know I'm an Army girl, so that's what I'm going to call it. So they start going through the house, clearing it, and the first person they see is Gloria Short. She's laying at the end of the hallway, sprawled out in a pool of blood. They walk a little bit past her and they look into the living room, and that's when they see sweet little Gigi laying on the floor, covered in blood. Now the house is ransacked. They're walking through broken glass, broken picture frames, the furniture's moved, and there's silver duct tape and that blue painter's tape all over the house. I mean, this house looks like a scene straight out of a horror movie. There's blood all over the walls, all over the door handles. It's just, I could not imagine coming home being Robert Short. I would have lost my daggone mind. As they continue on through the house, they hit the master bedroom, and that's when they find Caleb in the master closet. He's bound with the duct tape, and his face is badly beaten. When the investigators get there, they're able to give a more detailed picture of the crime scene. The first thing they notice is a 20-pound dumbbell laying next to Gigi's head, and they assume that this was what was used to murder her. They see that Gloria has some stab wounds, and when they're looking at Caleb, they can tell that he's been bludgeoned to death. And they also notice that he has grass in his socks. So they figure that at some point he was outside. So this leads them to go out into the backyard. Now outside, they see more blue painter's tape, more duct tape all over the side of the house and in the backyard. And they also see that Caleb's room window is open. And they figure that this is most likely how they got in, because the front door, the deadbolt was still locked. So they start to wrap up at the scene. They take pictures of everything, gather up all their evidence, and they send the bodies off to be autopsied. So it's at this time when they ask Robert if he can come down to the police station and give a formal statement. When he gets to the police station, he tells them that his 2 cars are missing, clothing, jewelry, coins, and $600 in cash. And they start asking him questions like, was your son into anything? Was your son doing things that, could have got him in trouble? Was your wife involved in anything? Was your family in any financial trouble or going through any troubles? And he's like, no, we lived a pretty peaceful life. He tells them that when he came home that morning, the garage door was up, so he figured his wife Gloria was at a hair appointment, but the other car was gone too. And they're like, okay, what cars were missing? He tells them a green 2004 GMC Envoy, and the car that Gloria was driving was the 2014 Volkswagen Beetle. So the detectives assume that more than one person was involved in this, because can't one person take off in 2 cars? So it's at this time when they get the autopsy report back. And they find out that all 3 of them were bludgeoned to death, and the 20-pound dumbbell had all 3 of their blood on it. So they were all beat with this 20-pound dumbbell. But they also see that both Gloria and Gigi had stab wounds. But I honestly think that Gigi got it the worst, because she had defensive wounds on her arms and on her hands. She had stab wounds on her neck and on her chest and in her head. And aside from somebody committing these murders in general, like why? Why did this 10-year-old little girl have to be murdered in such a heinous way? Why? Like, what did she do to you? So they start thinking, this 54-year-old, nice, sweet, retired woman, she couldn't have brought this into her home. And this 10-year-old little girl, absolutely not. So they start looking into 17-year-old Caleb. They get his phone records, and they see that the last person that he was speaking to on the night of the murders was somebody named Javarcier. So they bring Javarcier in and they begin his questioning. When he gets there, they ask him, who he is, and they go from there. So he tells them that he's Caleb's cousin, and the last time that he's seen him was over the summer when he went on a family vacation with the family. He then goes on to tell them that Caleb was a really quiet person. He was really shy, and he really didn't bother nobody. He talked his little shit because he was, he was a teenager. He talked his mess. He got into his little stuff. But overall, he was a very nice person, very sweet kid. And He wasn't really giving them any information as to what Caleb could have been involved in or who he could have been involved with that could have wanted to murder him and his family in such a vicious way. So they go ahead and ask him if they can obtain his phone so they can get his phone records, his text messages, and so on and so forth. He goes ahead and volunteers all of his information, and at this time, he's not a suspect in any of the murders. When they wrap up the questioning with Javarcier, they end up figuring out that one of the cars has a GPS tracker on it. This is a huge break for them. So they track down both of the cars at Oakland Park. After they find the cars, they hurry up and start scrubbing the cars for evidence. They're looking for blood, they're looking for fingerprints, a strand of hair, whatever they can find that can link them to whoever did this murder. So they use that Blue Star forensic stuff that makes things glow if there's blood on it. And them cars was lit up like Christmas trees. They was glowing like a motherfucker. There was blood on the gear shift, the foot pedal, the armrest, and the steering wheel. So, this is 2016. They wanted to hurry up and get this out to the public to see if anybody's seen somebody driving the cars or even just dumping them at the park. And in fact, they do, honey. So they end up getting a call a couple days after the news report goes out about the cars being found at the park from a woman saying her son may be involved with the theft of the cars that were found dumped at the park. And they like, shit, let's go ahead and find out what this woman may know. So when they pull up to the woman's house, she's standing outside in her little blue robe. She got a cigarette, looking just like somebody's mama, right? So they start asking her, okay, so what do you know about the theft of these cars? And she says, look, my son Raheem, the night that this happened, he came into my house and he had a whole bunch of stuff with him and it did not belong to him, right? And he was with somebody, some boy I did not know, and some boy named Weta. And they like, Weta? Weta who? Is that the boy's name? And she like, I don't know his name. I just know he go by Weta. My son came in this house and he had some things that did not belong to him. And he looked very scared. And he was with some boy I did not know. And then this other boy named Weta. And that's all I really know. So they ask her if she can get dressed and come down to the police station and give a formal statement. So down at the police station, she's like, my son Raheem, he a do boy. He gonna do pretty much whatever somebody asks him to do. I don't care what it is, he gonna just do it, okay? If they tell him to jump off the cliff 2 times, he gonna do it 4 times. And he be hanging around somebody named Marcus and a boy named Weta. The 3 of them, they like the 3 stooges. They like, okay, so what can you tell us about the night that the murders took place? She says, the night that the murders took place, my daughter and me, we sitting in the living room and he pulls up with a whole bunch of stuff coming in my house and he's in that silver car that we seen dumped at the park. They like, okay, we getting somewhere now. So they hurry up and track down Marcus. When they bring him in for questioning, they go ahead and start asking him questions like, where were you the night of the murder? And he like, look, I was at my girl's house. And they're like, okay, well, what do you know about these murders? Because Raheem mama said, okay, she said. And he's like, I originally was supposed to be in on it. And they're like, okay, so how did it go? How were you supposed to be in on it? He says, Weta and Raheem originally came to me with this plan to hit this lick. And it was supposed to be a big lick, right? But the night that we were supposed to link up, I was with my girl. So I'm hanging out at my girl's house. And her mama came in the room talking about she had to go to the store. And she don't play that leaving us at home by ourselves. So she told us that we both needed to go to the store with her. So when they was calling me to link up, I could have answered the phone because I was with my girl and her mama. They said, okay, well, do you know if they got somebody to replace you? He like, look, I don't know if they got nobody to replace me. I just know I was supposed to be there. They say, okay, so how did they get to the house? He says, I don't know. I think they rode bikes. Now, they don't know if he's being truthful or not. So they go ahead and call to see if his alibi lines up. And it does. So he's no longer a suspect, but they do believe that Marcus knows more about who was involved in the murders. All right, so after they wrap up their interview with Marcus, they end up doing more digging, finding out that the night before the murders took place, there was a 911 caller that called from the neighborhood saying that there was somebody walking around looking suspicious with a hoodie on, and they just wanted somebody to go over and, check out and see who this guy was. So they call this guy in and they start asking him, what was going on the night before the murder that made you call the police? And he's like, there was this really suspicious guy walking around with the hoodie. And it's about 9:18 at night. This is a very nice neighborhood. It's very unusual to have somebody walking around this late at night. And I was just calling to have somebody come over and check it out. They put together a photo lineup of some suspects who they think could have been possibly walking around this late at night. Now, I don't know how they put together this photo lineup or who they could have possibly thought could have been in this lineup, but the caller ends up identifying Rufus Burks as a person walking around the neighborhood the night before the murders took place. So it's at this time that they feel like they have enough evidence to start making their arrest. They get their warrants together and they go from there. They get a call from Raheem's mama saying she knows where he's hiding out at. They figure out where he's at and they hurry up and go pick him up. Now listen to his interrogation because this is where it starts to get very juicy, all right? Okay, so when they bring Raheem in, he's pretty much ready to talk. He's tired of running and hiding and he wants to give up the information that he has on the murders. So they ask him his involvement in the murders and how it all went down. So he tells them that a dude named Quez comes up with this plan to rob this family. He doesn't know who they are, but he's like, it's a big lick. I'm going to go ahead and do it. So he says they pull up on their bikes and he's standing out front. Quez walks up the driveway and tells him to wait on the side of the house by the garage. So he's like, okay, so were you with Quez when you walked up the driveway? And he's like, no, but he goes up to the driveway and he knocks on the door. And I heard what he said when he knocked on the door. And they're like, okay, so what did he say? He knocks on the door and he says, it's me, Weta. Like he lived there type shit. And they're like, so he go by Weta and Quez? Do you know the boy's real name? But the way he answered was pretty much like, Javarsier, duh. And they're like, Javarsier? I know you fucking lying. Now, Javarsier was the first person that they interviewed. And he was so forthcoming. He was so willing to give up the information about what he knew about Caleb. That was his cousin. And he was being so sweet and cooperative, basically. So they like, I know this little motherfucker did not just play in our faces. So they have pretty much all the suspects that they need in this murder, but they want to go ahead and get a little bit more evidence. So they go to Facebook or social media, you know how they do, and they looked at Javarsier's social media and they see that he's been in contact with somebody named Rufus. And they've been on social media just auctioning off Caleb's games, his clothes, his shoes, his game system. And they're like, are you serious? So they apprehend Rufus and they bring Javarsier back in for an interrogation. And they really just want to see if he's going to confess or admit to anything. And this little nigga is just cool as a cucumber. He ain't saying nothing. He's not admitting to anything. They like, look, we got your phone records back and we can tell that you deleted stuff. So like your messages ain't lining up to what Caleb's messages is saying. And he like, look, I ain't worried about none of that. Like he just cool. He just smooth. He ain't worried about nothing. Okay. And they sick of playing games with Javarsier, dancing around, questioning this little boy. So they ask him if he has anything else to say. And he's like, nah, I'm good. They're like, bet, get your ass up. We have all the evidence we need. Your homeboy done already gave up the ghost and you already know what's next. You going to jail, okay? But listen to this. While he's sitting in jail awaiting his trial, they end up getting a letter from Javarsier's cellmate saying that his cellmate has some information for them, right? So they get his cellmate to come in, and while he's there, he tells them, look, my first encounter with him, I'm like, what up a toy killer? And Javarsier's like, nigga, if you ever call me that shit in your motherfucking life, I will kill you. I done already killed 3 people. You don't think I'd do that shit to you too? I'm gonna be in here for life. So that shit really is whatever to me. Then he says, this nigga Javarsier in there popping his shit. He just murdered 3 people. He read his newspaper article about himself. And he in there just acting like he just big boy on a block, right? So he reads his newspaper article and he walking around the prison like, yeah, I killed him and I do that shit again too. Then listen to this mess, right? Then he says there were supposed to be 4 murders. They were actually supposed to kill the lookout who was Raheem, but he ran out of time, so he couldn't do it. So Javarcier never admitted to committing the murders. He never confessed or told his side of the story. But he pled guilty to 3 counts of malice murder, and he was sentenced to 3 life sentences without possibility of parole, and he's serving out his prison sentence at the Hayes State Prison in Trenton, Georgia. His counterpart, Raheem, he also pled guilty to 3 counts of malice murder, and he was sentenced to 30 years, 10 years for kidnapping and 20 years for motor vehicle theft. Damn, my boy. I guess that's what you get for being a do-boy. He's now serving out his prison sentence at Baldwin State Prison in Hardwick, Georgia, and he will be eligible for release in 2046. Now, Rufus, I guess he felt like he didn't do as much as everybody else did, so he pled innocent and he took his case to trial. He was found guilty of 1 count of felony murder and he got 2 concurrent life sentences plus 15 years. He's now serving out his prison sentence at the Wilcox State Prison in Abbeville, Georgia, and he'll be eligible for parole one of these days. Now, I'm almost positive that he would have gotten something less than this if he would have pled guilty, but hey, that ain't got nothing to do with me. And that is the end of my case on the 3 murders of Giana Lindsey, Gloria Short, and Caleb Short. Now, y'all already know what time it is. I'm about to get in here and talk my shit because I have so much to say about this case.
You know the problem with you little niggas? You think you know everything about the damn world, and you don't know shit.
Every time I see this little nigga Javarcier's mugshot, I want to squeeze his head until his eyeballs pop out. Real nigga shit. This family took you in. They claimed you as their own. When you was with them, you didn't have to worry about nothing. Like, they bought you clothes, they fed you. You was literally one of their kids when you was with them. And it pisses me off, the betrayal and the amount of hate that you had. Like, what was the reason?
What was the reason? What was the reason?
Now, I'm sure that me and everybody else in the world believes that the motive behind these murders occurred because of pure jealousy. So here's how I think it goes down. Javarcier tells the police that the last time he's seen Caleb and the family was over the summer. So I think this is when his thought process or his planning starts to get going. So Caleb and the family, they invite him on this family vacation. So he comes on this family vacation. He looking at Caleb like he got this dad who's in his life. He's present. He loves him. He cares about him. He got this mom. She loving, caring. They just really hyping Caleb up. This is his junior year before he goes off to college. He has so much potential. He has just a bright future ahead of him. And then to top it off, he sees this little girl, Gigi, running around. She got everything that he can possibly want. She's spoiled. And Caleb, he got every shoe that ever come out, and he just real life hating. Like, his family ain't checking for him. He ain't got nothing going for him after high school, and he just upset. So when he gets home from this family vacation, Javarcier plotting, he just brewing, right? He like, man, I'm finna get them. They got too much money. I ain't got shit going for myself. Pretty much coming like the devil. I'm finna kill, steal, and destroy. I want whatever they have. So the summer after he goes on vacation with them, this January comes up. You know, the holidays are over with. Christmas just passed. He's seen everything Caleb got because, you know, he been lurking on his Instagram, right? Family just finished turning up for the holidays. He hits up his 2 best niggas, the 2 dumbest niggas that he can find. Raheem and Marcus originally. So he hits them up and he's like, look, I'm trying to get this nigga Caleb. I just want to I know his family got some money. Let's just go ahead and get this lit. And these niggas is dumb as fuck. They ain't got a dollar to their name. They ain't got nothing going for themselves. So they like, all right, let's go. They pull up on bikes. to Caleb's house that night. He texts him. I'm almost positive that he texts Caleb and asked him who was at home, because for one, he wanted to know if his daddy Robert was home, and two, if his dad was home, he wanted to make sure that he was well prepared to take care of his dad, or if he wasn't there, which he wasn't, he was prepared to take care of the people that was in the house. So he hits him up. He's like, hey, what's up, man? I'm in the area. I'm finna pull up on you. And sweet little Caleb, he's like, yeah, pull up. It's just me, my mama, and Gigi. Pull up. We ready to see you. It's just us. So he pulls up on him. He texts him. He's like, hey, I'm outside. Meet me around back. Caleb opens the door, and then that's when he gets ambushed. All three run up on him and start attacking him, and that's how he gets the grass in his socks, because he was outside tussling. They start tying him up, they start beating his ass, and then they throw him in his window, and that's how his room window gets opened. So once he's inside, they see that he has these 20-pound dumbbells in his room because he's been working out. So they get these 20-pound dumbbells and they go into the living room, and that's where Gigi and Gloria are. So they tie them up. They beat them. They start ransacking the house, torturing Gigi and Caleb, trying to get Miss Gloria to tell them where all the money is and all the coins and the car keys and stuff are. They do whatever they can to kill them. They load up the 2 cars with all of the stuff that they stole, and they take off. And that's what I think happened. I'm not personally a fan of prison rape or being violated while you locked up, but I hope the Javarcier in there getting taken advantage of. Hey, I said what I said. They all got what they deserved in their sentencings. They murdered 3 innocent people, and for what? This family was a type of family that would have just given you anything. And if Javarcier would have come to them and asked them for something, I'm sure that the family would have just given it to him. He didn't have to steal it. And the thing is, he knew that. But when you're that lame and you're that much of a hater, you can't see past your own insecurities. When it all comes down to it, everything that they took was materialistic things, and they still had to split it 3 ways. And wait, remember, Javarcier planned on killing Raheem, so they probably wasn't even trying to split it 3 ways. But you know what? I think Raheem is so dumb that they probably didn't even give him any money. And if they did, it was probably maybe $100 or $200 just for being the lookout. But when it really boils down, none of them received any real profit, really and truly. But the lives they took were priceless. But that's all I have to say. I hope you all enjoyed this week's case on guns and butter.